Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Student, this is Sir Muhammad Saqib. We are going to start a new chapter which is called the periodic table. In this chapter, we are going to cover basically some topics. Um, we are going to cover 5 topics. Number 1 is the arrangement of elements. In this topic, we will basically get to know how the elements are arranged in this periodic table. And then we will discuss the properties of group 1. So basically the group 1 is this one, okay, the hydrogen, lithium, sodium. This is called group 1. Then we are also going to study the properties of group 7, which is called halogen as well. And halogen is basically this one. This is the halogen family or halogen group. Then we are going to discuss transition elements and noble gases. But for as now, we are going to study the first topic, which is arrangement of elements. And the arrangement of elements, we have like some topics, some subtopics. The first topic is describe the periodic table as an arrangement of elements in periods and groups and in order of increasing proton number, which is also called atomic number. So we are going to start this topic. So let's just start how the elements are basically arranged in this periodic table. So there was a scientist uh, whose name was Mendeleev. In 1869. He proposed this periodic table. Okay, and all the modern basically periodic tables are based on his model. If you have been asked in exam about the periodic table, so you can basically write this definition. The periodic table is a table of elements, as you can see over here, arranged in order of increasing proton number. Proton number is also called atomic number. Whenever we write an element, like for example, I'm writing hydrogen, so I just write, I have to write its atomic number, so I will write 1. Okay, then if someone asks me to write lithium, then I will write Li. Li is lithium, and then I will write 3. So hydrogen is 1, lithium is 3, carbon is 6, oxygen is 8. So it's atomic number, and it is also their proton number. So as you can see, hydrogen is 1, and then here we can see helium. Helium is 2. Then we have lithium over here. Then we have beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon. As you can see, these elements are basically placed in order of increasing their proton number, or you can also say atomic number. So they are arranged in order of their atomic number. And then as you can see in this periodic table, we have rows as well as columns. So I'm just telling you what is rows and columns. So in this periodic table, there will be like vertical columns like this. This is the vertical, okay, this is the vertical column. This is the vertical column. This is the vertical column. And I'm sorry, this is the vertical column, and this is also the vertical column. Okay. So we have vertical columns. So these vertical columns are called groups. These vertical columns are called groups. As you can see over here, this is the group 1A. These vertical columns, this is the vertical column, this is the vertical columns. So these vertical columns are called groups or families. Okay. So we have 8 groups. We have 8 groups. What groups are vertical columns? Okay. And we have total 8 groups. Okay, from 1 to 8, and we write this as an Roman. Okay, so we have group 1, then we have group 2, if you can see, then we have group 2, then we have group 3, we have group 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we have total 8 groups over here. And then we have periods. Okay, so the vertical columns are called groups, and the horizontal rows, which are basically like this. Okay, let me just draw like this. Okay, so we have horizontal rows. Horizontal rows are called periods. Horizontal rows are called periods, and we have total 7 period. Okay, Period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, period 5, period 6, and period 7. So we have total period 7, as you can see over here. This is period 1, period 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And every period has different length. And every period consists of different number of elements. For example, period 1 is called shortest period because it consists only of two elements, which is hydrogen and helium. So it consists only of two elements. Then we have period 2, which consists of 8 elements. Then period 3 is also consists of 8 elements. Period 4 is consist of 18 elements. Period 5 is also consist of 18 elements. Period 6 is consist of 32 elements, and period 7, it is incomplete. Okay. And so every period consists of different elements. Now the question is, what does period indicate and what does group indicate? Like I'm telling you, the period basically indicates number of shell. You have to remember this. Period basically indicates the number of shell. So if any element is in period 3, it means it will have 3 shells. It will have 3 shells. Like for example, we have potassium. Okay, we have potassium, and potassium atomic number is 19. Potassium atomic number is 19. So we will basically write 2, 8, 8, and 1. Okay, I guess no, potassium is period 4. No, potassium in period 4. So it has like 4 shells. Okay, the first shell consists of 2 electrons, then 8 electrons, then 8 electrons, and then 1 electron. Okay, and if I talk about the sodium, sodium has like total of atomic number is 11. Total of, there are total basically 11 electrons. Okay, number of proton number or atomic number is also equal to number of electrons. So sodium consists of 11 electrons. In the first shell there will be 2 electrons, then there will be 8. As we know that the maximum number of electrons in the second and third shell will be 8. So there are 2 electrons in the first shell, there are 8 electrons in the second shell. They basically, when we add them, so they are basically will form 10 electrons. There is one more electron which will be in the third shell. Okay, so there will be 3 shells. So period 1 consists of 1 shell, period 2 consists of 2 shell, period 3 consists of 3 shell. Now the question is, what does group indicate? So group basically indicates the charge. Okay, like for example, if elements are present in group 1a, so in its outermost shell there will be 1 electron. If element is present in group 1a, its outermost shell will consist of only 1 electron. And if element is present in group 2a, then its outermost shell, which is also called valence shell, it will consist of 2 electron. Okay, I'm just giving you an example. Let's suppose we have element from here. Let's just take an example. We have lithium. Okay, we have lithium, and as you can see over here, lithium belongs to group 1a. It means in its outermost shell there should be 1 electron. So let's just find it out. Okay, lithium atomic number is 3. It consists of 3 proton, 3 electron. Its atomic number is also 3. So in the first shell there will be 2 electron, and in the second shell there will be 1 electron. This is the last shell. Okay, this is the last shell, and it is also called valence shell. So in the second cell, or in the last shell, or in the valence shell, there is only 1 electron. So it consists so it belongs to first group. Now just take an example of sodium. Sodium has 11 electron. In the first shell there will be 2 electron, in the second shell there will be 2 electrons, and in the third shell there will be only 1 electron. As you can see, it belongs to first group, it belongs to first group as well. Okay, and for potassium we have 19 electrons. So first 2, then 8, then 8, and then 1. As you can see, in the last shell there is only 1 electron. So lithium, sodium, and potassium must belong to first group. Let's just see. As you can see, lithium, sodium, potassium, it belongs to first group. Let's just take another example. We have like nitrogen. Okay, let's just take another example. We have nitrogen. Its atomic number is 7. Okay, now You can also find its period number, and you can also find its group number. Okay, we are going to find it out. Let's suppose its atomic number is 7, so it means it consists of 7 electrons. In the first shell there will be 2 electrons, and in the second shell there will be only 5 electrons, because there are total 7 electrons. In the first shell there are only 2 electrons, so the remaining 5 electrons will be in the second shell. So as you can see over here, there are only 2 shell, so it must belong to second period. Okay, it must belong to period number 2, because it consists only of 2 shells, and it has 5 electrons in the outermost shell or in the valence shell. So it means it should belong to group 5A. It should belong to group 5 or A. Just leave the A for us now. Okay, so it must belong to group 5. Okay, now we will see it in the periodic table. If nitrogen belongs to period 2 and if it belongs to group 5. Okay, let's just see over here. So nitrogen is over here, as you can see. So nitrogen does belong to group 2, yes, period 2, and it does belong to group 5, as you can see over here as well. Okay, let's just take last example, which is basically fluorine. Okay, fluorine. So atomic number of fluorine is 9. Okay, atomic number of fluorine is 9. So it means it consists of 9 electrons. In the first shell can basically give place to 2 electrons. So in the first shell there will be only 2 electrons, and in the second shell there will be 7 electrons. 9 minus 2 is equal to 7. Okay, so in the first shell there are 2 electrons, in the second shell there are 7 electrons. So it means there are two shells, so it must belong to period number 2. Okay, it must belong to period number 2, and in the last shell there are 7 electrons, so it must belong to group 7. It must belong to group 7. Let's just find it out. So fluorine is over here, it belongs to group period 2. Okay, as you can see over here, it belongs to period 2, and it has as we just talked about fluorine, it has 7 electrons, so it must belong to group 7. And as we can see over here, it does belong to group 7. It does belong to group 7. Okay, so I hope you have find this video very helpful, as we discussed about the periodic table, how the elements are arranged over here, basically what's our group and what's our periods, and what does group and period indicate. So I hope you have understood all these things. We will meet you in the next video. Till then, Allah Hafiz.